this 16-year-old calls his dad in the middle of the afternoon. He says, "Dad, I've got some good news and bad news." Now, Dad's in the middle of a meeting and says hurriedly, "Son, I'm busy. Just quickly give me the good news." His son says, "Well, the airbag works." Often in good news, bad news jokes, we get the good news first. Today, Jesus gives us the bad news first. And the news is bad. He says, this way of life, it's going to go away. This temple you love that is you think is your security, it's going to be destroyed. And you personally, you will suffer unjustly. I am convinced that today Jesus also means this message for us. It won't always be this way. Don't kid yourselves. Life as you know it will end. People you love will die. Things will fall apart. You will suffer. The bad news is bad indeed. The good news he gives us is not all that initially comforting. It's almost like the kid going, well, the airbag works. But it's profound. How would you summarize the good news that you just heard Jesus give? I would summarize it this way. There is that in you which you can count on. Stay true. Hang on. It's in there. When you get that call at work about your job ending, when your kid's just been busted, when your girlfriend chooses somebody else, what you most deeply need is in you. It is. I mean, Jesus seems to say, things around you are gonna swirl and crumble sometimes, but you have within you what you need, what it takes. There is this place, it's in each of us, there's this place in you where you are you and more than you. It's that place where you are safe. It is. Where you're loved. Where you are seen. Where you are empowered. Where you are connected. Where you are wanted. Nothing and no one can take that from you. That's the promise even when the bad news is about our health, right? Once the owner of this art gallery calls one of the artists whose work was on display and says, "I've got some good news and bad news." The artist asks, "What's the good news?" He says, "Well, the good news is that there's a woman here today who asked if the price of your paintings will go up after you die. And I told her that they will. And she bought all of them." He goes, "Oh man, that's great." He goes, "What's the bad news?" He said, "That woman was your doctor." When the bad news is about our own health or the health of a loved one, how would you then describe the good news? What lasts at a time like that? Years ago, I saw a poem which gives an answer. It's directed at those with cancer, but I believe it's true for pretty much every significant illness or grim diagnosis. We'll never deny the diminishments or the letting goes or the pain. But the poem, which is called "What Cancer Can't Do," adds this perspective. It says, cancer is so limited, it cannot kill friendship. No disease can. It cannot shut out memories. It cannot silence courage. It cannot invade the soul or reduce eternal life. It cannot cripple love. My friends, our goodness, our worth is an intrinsic part of who we are. And it does not end when we lose that big game, when we fail publicly, when we lose our health. It's not even diminished if we are dying. And that is why we so desperately need each other as church. I cannot take away your suffering. You cannot take away mine. But by how we hang in there with each other, we help make it obvious that the good news is real and worth trusting. Love does last. I mentioned at the beginning how my family felt loved by you guys when Mom died. This weekend, I have been so blessed to watch you guys do that. As you shared stories, and some stories about how you'd gotten support over the years from each other. It was so moving. I get to watch that in so many ways. It's what we can do, and it's what we must do for each other. No one here knows what the future will hold. Jesus does tell us it will hold bad news, loss and letting go, hurt and heartache, suffering and sadness. But then he tells us it will hold good news. For the future will always also hold what we most deeply need. It is in us now and ever shall be.